The NHL roster freeze for the holiday season is now in full effect, but there's still lots of rumors and speculation about trades that could be being discussed and things we may see shortly after the holidays into the early part of January. Today's rumor mill focusing on some of the hot topic teams around the NHL, including the Vancouver Canucks, the New York Rangers, and could we see a major deal between those two teams, plus the latest on Buffalo, as well as Nashville, a little bit on some other teams as well, including the Red Wings and the Penguins, plus we have some other news around the NHL, including Matt Murray. It's been about a year and a half since he's played an NHL game. He's been recalled and in action tonight for the Maple Leafs. We'll discuss all that and some other news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to talk about here today. It's been an interesting day full of speculation of things we might see for NHL trade activity. Of course, the holiday roster freeze is now in effect as of midnight last night, so we're not going to see any activity until after Christmas, but there's still lots of things being discussed and lots of NHL GMs working on things. Before we get into the rumor mill, though, I do want to touch on a few other quick pieces of news. One big news topic is that as of today, the Toronto Maple Leafs recalled veteran goaltender Matt Murray from their AHL affiliate, the Toronto Marlies. It's been about a year and a half since Murray's played an NHL game. Actually, maybe a little bit more than that, actually. I believe it was April 2023. So, obviously last season, he didn't play. He had the hip, I think it was double hip surgery. Went through a major recovery, of course. Came back, signed a one-year deal. His contract had been expired, but signed a one-year cheap deal with the Leafs to try to have a chance to see what he could do. And he started the year in the minors. He's played relatively well. And they're, of course, in Buffalo tonight. The Sabres are on an 11-game losing streak. They're on a back-to-back. Tonight's the first leg of it. They have another game tomorrow night. And they put Murray in. And so far, so good. As I record this video, we're currently in the second intermission. The Leafs lead the Sabres by a score of 5-2. Both goals that the Sabres scored came in the second period. Murray didn't give up any goals, and 9 shots in the first period. Looked pretty good. But, overall, Sabres have earned a couple. But generally speaking, it's good to see Murray back. Obviously, the Leafs are hoping to have, him be another reliable piece back there. Clearly, their plans are to run with Stolarz and Wall, but with Stolarz being out, if Murray can give them some decent games, and could be a good problem to have down the road. Certainly, Hildeby was proven in his limited availability so far. He might be an option for them too. So they have better goaltending at the depth. They have better depth at the goaltending position, is what I meant to say, than they have in a long time. So that's good to see. Obviously, after the long recovery for Murray, good to see that he's able to play and produce at a decent level. Obviously, he's most likely going to get the win tonight. We'll see how the third period goes, and overall, be able to see how his game came together. The Boston Bruins and Tyler Johnson today were officially able to part ways. Of course, they put him on waivers yesterday, which was unconditional waivers to terminate the contract. Of course, he wasn't picked up. No big surprise. So Johnson's now a UFA. Apparently, he is hoping to resume his career and play somewhere else throughout the rest of the season. And as soon as the roster freeze is lifted, there's optimism from Johnson's camp that he might be able to get a contract with another NHL club, but only time will tell. We got word today as well that the New York Islanders were able to activate Anthony Duclair from long-term injured reserve. So clearly a team that's struggling. I mean, Duclair is not going to, change things that drastically, but certainly he's a guy who can produce some offense and, certainly a good skater. So good to get him back in the lineup. The Rangers, of course, are recalled Matt Rempe, and the Flyers sent Emil Andrea down to the American Hockey League, which was a little confusing as well, but they are carrying 3 goaltenders, so they don't have as much roster flexibility as they might like here as well. And of course, got the World Junior Championship tournament getting started, of course, on Boxing Day. We already talked about Canada's leadership team yesterday. They'll be captained by Jets prospect Braden Yager. Today we found out the captain for Team USA is one of the top college scorers right now, and Washington Capitals prospect Ryan Leonard. So Leonard is looking really, really good right now. The Washington Capitals have themselves a really, really good prospect. Somebody who projects to be a really good goal scorer at the NHL. So good to see him get an opportunity to lead the American team, and be curious and fun to get the tournament underway. Of course, like I said, we're at a point now where they're playing pre-tournament games and kind of getting ready for Boxing Day. If you haven't already gotten into watching that tournament over the Christmas holidays, I highly recommend it. It gives you a glimpse of the future for a lot of the game's top prospects, some of which haven't even been drafted yet. And of course, international best on best hockey, generally at most levels, is quite fun regardless. So certainly recommend you check out that tournament. I will be doing some videos, doing a full preview and going through that in more detail. Of course, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, even for the most part Christmas Eve, not a lot of NHL news going on, so you will be seeing content pop up around that tournament here as well. I cover it every single year. Now, lots of speculation around the NHL, as I mentioned. Just because the roster freeze is kicked in, it doesn't stop the NHL insiders from sharing information, and it certainly doesn't stop NHL GMs and teams from having conversations. They can't execute a trade, but they can get some conversations going and set some things up for after the holidays. Now, one interesting tidbit, we don't know if it'll lead to anything or not, but we did see tonight that Kyle Dubas, the GM of the Penguins, and his assistant GM Jason Spezza are taking in an American Hockey League game in which we're in Hartford, which is the Rangers affiliate, playing the Providence Bruins, the Boston Bruins affiliate. So, obviously we know the Rangers have been wide open for business. So, could the Penguins be talking to the Rangers? It might be a possibility. We'll have to see. So we'll have to just keep an eye on that situation. Just because somebody's scouting, and doesn't mean it's definitely about a trade, and it doesn't mean even if it is that it's going to lead to one. But something just to keep in mind. On the 32 Thoughts podcast today with Elliot Friedman, and the one thing he also said as well, which wasn't a rumor, but it kind of goes in the same sort of segment here, is that a lot of people have been giving Montreal, the Canadiens, a hard time about passing on Matvei Michkov. Now that he's had a chance to play in the NHL a bit, and he's looking really, really good. A lot of people, like to, and to be honest, some fans just like to give other fan bases a hard time. But there's been an ongoing, thing on social media where a lot of people like to rag on the Canadiens for passing on Michkov. And to be honest, I think Friedman kind of said it best here on the podcast. He says essentially that it's a narrative that needs to stop, because essentially, Michkov is a player that kind of manipulated his way to a big U.S. market. He made it clear that he wanted to go to the Flyers. He wanted to go to, a bigger American market. And that's what he wanted. Now, based on what we had heard, it sounds like he kind of talked to any other teams that were drafting higher. He kind of let on that he wouldn't sign for an extended period of time, or if at all, if they picked him, and he just kind of used his influence and everything that he could do to get himself where he wanted to go. So to be honest, maybe it's for the best that Montreal didn't pick him. Maybe he wouldn't sign. Maybe he'd force a trade. It's really kind of difficult to say, but I know, like with Ivan Demidov getting picked by Montreal last year, and obviously Demidov was doing quite well in the KHL, looking like a real, potential top player for them down the road. It's kind of brought up the whole comparison. Did they take Demidov because they had regrets on Michkov and all that kind of conversations? And, maybe they have regrets. I don't know. But to be honest, based on everything we had heard, it's possible that he might have forced his way to another team anyway. So maybe it's for the best. But I think Elliot's right that it's a narrative that probably needs to go to the wayside. Lots of other things talked on that podcast, as well as other insider information around the league as well. Let's start first with the Buffalo Sabres. Of course, the Sabres have lost 11 straight games. They're playing the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight, as I mentioned earlier, against Matt Murray. They're losing 5-2 after 40 minutes, so most likely it's going to be a 12th straight loss. I know Dreger was talking on TSN about, the fact that the Sabres have been on the phone a lot, nonstop. Kevin Adams is having tons of trade conversations, hesitant to pull the trigger. The Sabres, because of what went down with Eichel and Reinhart, etc., they are very, very nervous to send another top young player out of the organization to watch them win somewhere else. And I don't blame them. They have every right to do that. I'd be concerned as well. But certainly, when it comes to the Sabres, he says that they are willing to do something big, except they just haven't really had the right offers as of yet. It sounds like the teams that are kind of circling the Sabres are trying to take advantage of a bad situation, which we know teams are going to do. There's no surprise or no shocker there, but maybe they're offering more future-based, that's what it sounds like, being first-round picks or prospects, whereas the Sabres want to get better right now. I don't know that they really want a future-based package for any of their players that they would consider moving. I think they'd want another good player coming in to replace that guy. So, at the end of the day, the Sabres want to get better for sure. It's frustrating. I know Lindy Ruff, listening to him talk, it seems like he's at his wit's end here trying to figure out what else he can try. Except we're going on to 12 straight loss tonight. But will they find a big deal to be able to shake things up? That's the big question. We don't know what exactly Kevyn Adams is up to right now, but lots of people are pointing the finger at the ownership there. It's just an unfortunate situation that we really think the fans deserve better, and they've been without playoffs there for a really, really, really long time, and it's probably going to be another year again. They're already like over 10 points out of the wild card spot, which is tough enough to catch up to. 10 points at this time of year is really, really, really hard. Now, one other thing with the Buffalo Sabres as well, there was some talk, and I believe Friedman's the one who mentioned it, that the Sabres and the Red Wings were actually scouting each other a bit as well. Both teams near the bottom of the Atlantic Division, both struggling. Detroit's playing Montreal tonight. See if they can salvage a win. Last I saw, it was a tie game, so I'm not sure where things sit there. But, could two teams that are struggling, connect on a trade? Anything is possible, I guess, at this point, but those two teams definitely have been considered, or spotted, I should say, scouting each other. So another situation, like I mentioned with Pittsburgh and their brass, really kind of scouting the Rangers prospects and such to see if there's something there that they might like to do. So again, we'll have to wait and see where things go. But in Buffalo, lots of questions, very little answers. When it comes to Detroit, are they going to do more than just, some tweaking? It doesn't look that way, but I tell you, they're really at risk to get that torn down even further. The Yzerman rebuild in Detroit has not gone well. They haven't really come, into the playoffs here as of yet. They got a little bit closer in recent years, but right now they're trending on taking a step backwards. And it looks like Evanson's going to be out for a while as well, which is not going to help. So we will see. Now, another huge surprise this year is the Nashville Predators and Barry Trotz has spent a ton of money this offseason. Barry Trotz, of course, we've talked about the Predators and what they might be up to here in recent days. We've seen them clear a fair bit of money throughout the early part of the campaign, including moving Philip Tomasino. Of course, they also moved Carrier, of course, to Montreal for Justin Barron. And, of course, we also saw them move Dante Fabro. So, they've cleared some space. They have some other guys that could go on waivers that we had heard about that could create some space here as well. Nashville is a team, according to Barry Trotz, that is not going to rebuild. He says to Pierre LeBrun, who had interviewed him for The Athletic, that there's no chance that he's going to be rebuilding and that they're absolutely looking for ways to improve themselves here now to try to get things back in order. Now, there has been some talk, and like I said, Trotz even confirmed a bit of it himself, with the moves they've made to clear some space, that the Predators are going to be a team to probably make a big move after their holiday roster freeze is lifted. The Nashville Predators are certainly a team to watch here on this front, so I suspect they are going to try to bring in ideally a centerman, maybe even a defenseman. It's kind of difficult to say, depends on how they deal here from a position of not really being the greatest strength. Of course, not really a position of weakness either. They're weak down the middle, though. And is a team going to help them out and make them better? Or is a team going to, maybe watch them not do so well a little bit longer? A lot of the speculation around Nashville and Barry Trotz is that he really likes Dylan Cousins out of Buffalo. So, again, we'll see. They've also moved a few defensemen, so maybe they want to try to bring in a stronger top four defenseman as well. So guys like Byram, obviously in Buffalo are getting a lot of attention. Dylan Cousins, so we'll see if they are players that Nashville has their eye on, if anything materializes on that front as well. Now, with the Canucks, with the Rangers, could we see those two teams hook up on a deal? I think it might be possible. Now, lots of talk around the Canucks here in recent days about the Pettersson and Miller relationship and how everything has gone. I've seen some people posting full timelines on how everything has gone, clearly dating back to the Boudreau era. These two players, and Miller and Pettersson, don't seem to be too much of a fan of each other. It's gotten to a point now where they don't even want to be on the same ice together. They're not on the same power play. Just seems like they're purposely being kept apart, which, is probably not wise. If they have a divided locker room, that's not going to be good for this team either. Clearly, a team like the Vancouver Canucks are a team that should be very interesting to watch here. Now, the team like the New York Rangers should be doing much better as well. And we know that the Rangers, with what they've done so far, they've moved on from Gaudreau, they moved on from Trouba. It's believed that they might be looking to make a pretty significant move here as well. So clearly, this could turn out to be something larger. Could it be a case of Miller for Miller? On Vancouver's side, if they have to end up picking between Pettersson and Miller, you have to think they're going to go with the younger, more expensive Elias Pettersson, right? You would think so. We know the New York Rangers have been after JT Miller for some time. We know that the Miller and Pettersson, relationship has had its ups and downs, and certainly is not great. We've seen the effect on Pettersson or as soon as he come back. I don't know. To me, I wouldn't be completely shocked if we did see a trade involving JT Miller. I mean, clearly some of his teammates are just not rubbed the right way here by what he brings to the table, Pettersson being one of them. But at the same time, overall, I do wonder if this room is kind of divided and taking sides. I hope for their sake that it's not. But it's very, very kind of complex and, complicated here what Vancouver kind of wants to do. But at the end of the day, we have the New York Rangers who might be willing to move on from K'Andre Miller. They might be willing to move Braden Schneider. Would they be able to get themselves into a spot here to make a trade, Vancouver and New York Rangers here together? Clearly, you could have Miller for Miller. That might be a starting point. Maybe there's more involved there as well. Maybe there's another roster player. Maybe there's another draft pick. It's kind of difficult to say exactly where things go. Maybe I've seen some people saying the Canucks would really like K'Andre Miller as part of the return package for JT Miller. If a deal like this went down, he might be a defenseman that Rick Tocchet really likes. He's got great size. But a lot of Rangers fans say, yes, he's got great size, but he does not use it. He does not play like it. While it might be difficult to say exactly what a trade package might look like between these two clubs if it goes down, it's certainly worthy to think that a Miller for Miller type of deal, I think it might be larger than that. Maybe you see a prospect involved, maybe a pick. Would the Canucks maybe try to grab a guy like Brennan Othman, for example? Maybe will they try to get their hands on another first round pick? It's kind of difficult to say what the package is going to be like here, what it's going to be brought back like, so we'll have to wait and see. But certainly, like I said, the Miller-Pettersson saga has been going on for a long time. A lot of people are concerned it's going to come down to choosing, and if it does, this very well might be one of the ways to go about it. So let me know what your thoughts are on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. Again, like I said, nothing happening here today because of the roster freeze, but more conversations can be had so that things can be lined up for as soon as the roster freeze is being lifted. So let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time.